The University of California, the California State University, and the California community colleges are facing enormous enrollment demands. At the same time, the colleges and universities have experienced unprecedented funding cuts. Unfortunately, reducing funding has forced colleges and universities to reduce course sections and vital student services, just as the demand for these courses and services is at an all-time high. Record numbers of graduating high school seniors, unemployed Californians, and returning veterans are seeking a place in California's higher education system. Budget cuts are forcing colleges and universities to turn away record numbers of individuals who are seeking a college education. Today I will be talking about how supporting Assembly Bill 656 will produce $2 billion a year in sustainable funding for the UCs, CSUs, and community colleges in California. First, I will discuss the problems budget cuts create for higher education. Second, I will discuss the causes of budget cuts. And finally, I will discuss a possible solution to the problem faced by colleges and universities when faced with budget cuts. Now let's address the problems that inadequate funding for higher education has caused the state. A recent study by the Public Policy Institute of California stated that California's need for college-educated workers is outpacing the state's ability to produce them, and the gap is expected to widen in the future. 41% of workers will need a bachelor's degree to meet the state's projected economic demand in the year 2025. While the percentage of college-educated workers has increased in recent years, it is expected to slow in the future as people between 50 and 64 years of age who currently have the highest level of education will reach retirement by 2025, as reported by AB 656 fact sheet. As the growth of college-educated workers slows, the supply of workers with high school diploma or less education is projected to exceed economic demand, resulting in lower wages and fewer job opportunities for those workers. Now, at a critical time, we need an educated workforce. The general fund has been unable to sustain that need, allowing more resources to be taken away than provided. Therefore, in order to keep up with growing demand for a skilled workforce, it is necessary that legislature finds additional sources for higher education funding. Now that you understand how inadequate funding to higher education is a problem in California, I will now speak on some of the causes of this problem. On April 27, 2010, this past Tuesday, I was in Sacramento celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Master Plan for Higher Education by meeting with members of the California legislature in their office in Sacramento. I reminded them how vital it is to support higher education and reminded them of their promise they made to the Californians. The 1960 Master Plan for Higher Education established the UC and CSU system with the goal to admit every California high school student who is eligible. According to the Master Plan, it is the policy of the legislature that all resident applicants to California institutions of public higher education who are determined to be qualified by law or by admission standards established by the respective governing boards should be admitted to either a district of the California community colleges, the California State University, or the University of California. This vision transformed the state of California, and all Californians benefit, but it's at risk. According to the Chancellor's Office for California Community Colleges, there is a total of $1.7 billion in state funding cuts for the years 2009 to 2010. California public universities and colleges have now half as much money to spend per student as they did in 1990 in real dollars. In an interview with UC Regent Jesse Burnell, he says, in 1990 we had $16,000 to spend per student. In 2010 we have $7,800 per student, and that is after taking inflation into account. Growth in state funding on prisons has outstripped every other major sector. According to the CPEC fiscal profiles and governor budgets, from the years 1990 to 2010, spending on corrections has increased by 200%, double the budget for higher education. In an interview with Reed Milburn, president of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, she said, "They say there's no money, but it's not true. It's about prioritizing. The legislators have made pledges to others that they can't or won't break." So what can be done? There are many bills being proposed to help fund education. I will now talk about one bill in particular that aims to create revenue especially for higher education. Assembly Bill 656, commonly referred to as Tirico's Bill. Assembly Majority Leader and author of AB 656, Alberto Tirico, says, my bill, AB 656, would raise up to $2 billion for the UC, CSU, and community colleges with 12.5% tax on oil extracted within California. That's considerably less than the 25% tax levied by Sarah Palin's Alaska. According to the draft of the State Board of Equalization, this bill will require the Board of Equalization to annually report to the legislature, the regents of the University of California, the trustees of the California State University, and the Board of Governors for the California Community Colleges, the amount of revenue that would be raised by the imposition of this 12.5% per barrel oil and natural gas severance tax. According to Tirico's website, www.democrats.assembly.gov.ca.gov, he says, I have proposed that we adequately fund our community colleges, state colleges, and universities by requiring big oil to pay their fair share for the oil and natural gas they pump out of California's lands and water. We can no longer afford to be the only major oil-producing state that doesn't levy such a fee. Texas, for instance, generates $400 million for higher education with a similar bill. The AB 656 fact sheet also found that the bill creates a higher education fund that would be administered by a California Higher Education Endowment Corporation that annually allocates revenue for the three college systems based on the following formula: 50% for UCs, 25% for CSUs, and 25% for California community colleges. Investment in education is critical to save our schools and frankly save our state. Supporting AB 656 will ensure that higher education is properly funded so that the state of California will continue to be an economic powerhouse. In a 2005 study by the UC Berkeley Survey Research Center, it was found that $1 invested in getting students through college has returned $3 in tax revenue and lower jail and social service costs. The Chancellor's Office for California Community College reports that 55% of CSU students, 30% of UC students, bachelor degree recipients started at California Community College. 80% of firefighters, 70% of law enforcement officers, 80% of EMTs, and 70% of nurses in the state train at California community colleges. The National Science Foundation found that the state of California is number 2 ranking in the U.S. in share of science and engineering degrees awarded as a share of all degrees. The list of facts goes on and only further proves the power of higher education in California. I hope this presentation will encourage you all to become involved in what's going on in Sacramento, that it affects everyone sitting in this room. When you're trying to get in that last class and you need to transfer or graduate, and you can't because it's full, or when it takes you 2.5 hours to see a counselor, or when you're ready to transfer to a UC and CSU and you can't because there's no room for you, you'll know why. It's up to you to do something. Be proactive because it's your future they're messing with. I hope I have encouraged you all to oppose further budget cuts to education, take ownership of your education, and support AB 656. Thank you.